We live? No? We live? Can you hear me? I know they can hear me. I messed it up. But what's going on, everybody? Uh, Back again with some more readings on the finish off the Berlin conference. So I'm gonna share my screen, put it right there. Instead, nope. Yeah, probably right there. So I can see. I can make sure my thing ain't messing up. My mic ain't messing up. But when it click off after like 10 minutes. So we was on, if I remember correctly, we left off on Article 5. But just to recap on 4, right? I'll start off with 4 and then go into 5. But I'm confident we left off on 4. But without further ado, um, Article 4, the merchandise imported into these regions shall remain free from import and transit dues. The powers reserved to themselves to determine after the lapse of 20 years whether this freedom of import shall be retained or not. Article 5. No power which exercises or shall exercise sovereign rights in the above mentioned regions shall be allowed to grant therein a monopoly or favor of any kind in matters of trade. Foreigners without distinction shall enjoy protections of their persons and property, as well as the right of acquiring and transferring movable and immovable possessions, national rights and treatment in the exercise of their professions. Provisions relative to protection of the natives, of missionaries and travelers, as well as relative to religious liberty. Provisions relative to protection of the natives, of missionaries and travelers, as well as relative to religious liberty. Article 6. All the powers exercising sovereign rights or influence in the aforesaid territories bind themselves to watch over the preservation of the native tribes and to care for the improvement of the conditions of their moral and material well-being, and to help in suppressing slavery, especially the slave trade. They shall, without distinction of creed or nation, protect and favor all religious, scientific, or charitable institutions and undertakings created and organized by the above ends, or which aim at instructing the natives and bringing home to them the blessings of civilization. Christian missionaries, scientists, and explorers with their followers, property and collections shall likewise be the objects of especial protection. Freedom of conscience and religious toleration are expressly guaranteed to the natives, no less than to subjects and to foreigners. The free and public exercise of all forms of divine worship and the right to build edifices for religious purposes and to organize religious missions belonging to all creeds shall not be limited or furthered in any way whatsoever. Postal regime. Postal regime. All right. Article 7. The Convention of the Universal Postal Union, as, as revised at Paris June 1st, 1878, shall be applied to the conventional basin of the Congo. Conventional, yeah, I said that right. Conventional basin of the Congo. So, so include shall be applied. So to the conventional. Basin of the Congo. So include this as he revised it. Universal Postal Union. Oh, okay. The powers who therein do or shall exercise rights of sovereignty or protectorate engage, as soon as circumstances permit them, to take the measures necessary for the carrying out of the preceding provision. Right of surveillance vested in the International Navigation Commission of the Congo. Article 8. In all parts of the territory had in view by the present declaration, where no power shall exercise rights of sovereignty or protectorate, the International Navigation Commission of the Congo, instituted in virtue of Article 17, shall be charged with supervising the application of the principles proclaimed and perpetuated consecrated by this declaration. In all cases of difference arising relative to the application of the principles established by the present declaration, the governments concerned may agree to appeal to the good offices of the International Commission by submitting to it an examination of the facts which shall have occasioned these differences. Declaration relative to the slave trade. Chapter 2, Article 9. Um, Article 9. Seeing that trading in slaves is forbidden in conform, oh my goodness. Seeing that trading in slaves is forbidden in conformity, conformity with the principles of international law as recognized by the signatory powers, and seeing also that the operations which by sea or land furnish slaves to trade ought likewise to be regarded as forbidden. The powers which do or shall exercise sovereign rights or influence in the territories forming the conventional basin of the Congo declare that these territories may not serve as a market or means of transit for the trade of slaves, of whatever race they may be. Each of the powers bind itself to employ all the means at its disposal for putting an end to this trade and for punishing those who engage in it. One sec. And we know how that went. Chapter 3. Declaration relative to the neutrality of the territories comprised in the conventional basin of the Congo. In order to give, where are we? I've been so far in reading, man, did it disconnect? No, it didn't. All right, good. It didn't disconnect, y'all. Fix these. All right. Article 10. In order to give a new guarantee of security to trade and industry, and to encourage by the maintenance of peace the development of civilization in the countries mentioned in Article 1 and placed under the free trade system, the high signatory parties to the present act and those who shall hereafter adopt it bind themselves to respect the neutrality of the territories or portions of territories belonging to said countries, comprising therein the territorial waters, so long as the powers which exercise or shall exercise the rights of sovereignty or protectorate over those territories, using their option of proclaiming themselves neutral, shall fulfill the duties which neutrality requires. So all they had to say was they proclaim to be neutral. Is that what they're saying? Article 11. In case of power exercising rights of sovereignty or protectorate in the countries mentioned in Article 1 and placed under the free trade system, shall be involved in a war. Rights of sovereignty in place under the free trade system shall be involved in a war. Then the high signatory powers and to the present act, and to those who shall hereafter adopt it, bind themselves to lend their good offices in order that the territories belonging to this power and comprised in the conventional free trade zone shall, by the uncommon, or not by the uncommon, by the common consent of this power and of the other belligerent or belligerents, be placed during the war under the rule of neutrality and considered as belonging to a non-belligerent state. The belligerents thenceforth abstaining from extending hostilities to the territories thus neutralized and from using them as a base uh, for warlike operations. Interesting. We in Article 12. In case of serious disagreement originating on the subject of or in the limits of the territories mentioned in Article 1 and placed under the free trade system, shall arise between any signatory powers of the present act, or the powers which, which may become parties to it. These powers bind themselves before appealing to arms to have recourse to the mediation of one or more of the friendly powers. In a similar case, the powers reserve themselves to the option of having recourse to arbitration. Mm, Chapter 4. Active navigation for the Congo. Article 13. The navigation of the Congo without accepting any of its branches or outlets is and shall remain free for the merchant ships of all nations equally, whether carrying cargo or ballast. For the transport of goods and passengers, it shall be regulated by the provisions of this act of navigation and by the rules to be made in pursuance thereof, or pursuance thereof. And there we go. It was going to cut off eventually. We still good? All right, we good. Back. Sorry, y'all, I just cut off. Let me see. Where was I? Okay, so I'm gonna read the last one again, anyways. In the exercise of this navigation, the subjects and flags of all nations shall, in all respects, be treated on a footing of perfect equality, not only for the direct navigation from the open sea to the inland ports of the Congo, and vice versa, but also for the great and small coasting trade, and for the boat traffic on the course of the river. Consequently, they took over all that. Goodness. Consequently, in all of the course and mouths of the Congo, there will be no distinction made between the subjects of riverain states and those of non-riverain states, and no exclusive privilege of navigation will be conceded to companies, corporations, or private persons whatsoever. These provisions are recognized by the signatory powers of becoming henceforth a part of international law. Article 14. The navigation of the Congo shall not be subject to any restriction or obligation which is not expressly stipulated by the present act. It shall not be exposed to any landing dues, to any station or depot tax, depot tax, no, whatever, or to any charge of breaking bulk or for compulsory entry into port. In all the extent of the Congo, the ships and goods in process of transit on the river shall be submitted to no transit dues, whatever their starting place or destination. There shall be there shall be levied no marine, maritime or river toll based on the mere fact of navigation, nor any tax on goods aboard ships. There shall only be levied taxes or duties having the character of the equivalent for services rendered to navigation itself, to wit, one, harbor dues on certain local establishments such as wharves, warehouses, etc., if actually applied, if actually used. The tariff of such dues shall be framed according to the cost of constructing and maintaining the said local establishments, and it will be applied without regard to hence to whence vessels come or what they are loaded with. Two, pilot dues for those stretches of water where it may be necessary to establish properly qualified pilots. The tariffs, sorry, the tariff of these dues shall be fixed and calculated in proportion to the service rendered. Three, charges raised to cover technical and administrative expenses incurred in the general interest of navigation, including lighthouse, beacon, and buoy duties. The last mentioned dues shall be based on a tonnage of vessels as shown by the ship's papers, in accordance to the rules adopted on the lower Dunabay. The the terrorists, tariffs, tariffs, the tariffs of which the various dues and taxes enumerated in the three preceding paragraphs shall be levied without, shall not, oh my goodness. The tariffs by which the various dues and taxes enumerated in the three preceding paragraphs shall be levied shall not involve any differential treatment and shall be officially published at each port. The powers reserved to themselves to consider after the lapse of 5 years whether it may be necessary to revise by common accord the above mentioned tariffs. Article 15. The affluents of the Congo shall in all respects be subject to the same rules as the river of which they are tributaries. The same rules shall apply to the streams and river, as well as the lakes and canals in the territories defined in paragraphs 2 and 3 of Article 1. One second. Hmm. All right. At the same time, the powers of the International Commission of the Congo will not extend to the said rivers, streams, lakes, and canals, unless with the assent of the states under whose sovereignty they are placed. It is well understood also that with regard to the territories mentioned in paragraph 3 of Article 1, the consent of the sovereign states owning these territories is reserved. Article 16. Uh, sorry. We still there? We still there? All right, yeah, we still there. The roads, railways, or lateral canals which may be constructed with the special object of obviating the inna, innavigability or correcting the imperfection of the river route on certain sections of the course of the Congo, its affluents, and other waterways placed under a similar system, as laid down in Article 15, shall be considered in their quality of means of communication as dependencies of this river, and as equally open to the traffic of all nations. And as on the river itself there shall be collected on these roads, railways, and canals only tolls calculated on the cost of construction, maintenance, and management, and on the profits due to the promoters. As regards to the tariff of these tolls, strangers and natives of the respective tribes shall be treated on a footing of perfect equality. With perfect equality, they really put perfect equality. What's perfect equality? He really put all right. Article 17. There is instituted an international commission charged with the execution of the provisions of the present Act of Navigation. The signatory powers of this act, as well as those who may subsequently adhere to it, may always be represented on the said commission by each by one delegate. But no delegate shall have more than one vote at his disposal, given in case of his representing several, even in the case of his representing several governments. This delegate will be directly paid by his government. As for the various agents and employees of the International Commission, their remuneration shall be charged to the amount of the dues collected in conformity with paragraphs 2 and 3 of Article 14. The particulars of the said remuneration, as well as the number, grade, and powers of the agents and employees, shall be entered in the returns to be sent yearly to the governments represented in the International Commission. 18. The members of the International Commission, as well as its appointed agents, are vested with the privilege of inviolability in the case of their functions and in the exercise of their functions. The same guarantee shall apply to the offices and archives of the Commission. The privilege of inviolability. One sec. Just one sec. I have to Google this one. Secure from violation. Okay. Members of the International Commission, as well as its appointed guests, are invested with the privilege of being secure from violation in the exercise of their functions. The same guarantees shall apply to the offices and archives of the Commission. So that's saying they can never be in violation of what they're doing. If anybody ever listen to this, by all means put it in the comment section if you understand that point right there. Let me know. All right, but to move on, Article 19. Let me make sure we still on track. We still on track. We still on track. All right, we still on track, y'all. We almost done. Article 19. The International Commission for the Navigation of the Congo shall be constituted as soon as 5 of the signatory powers of the present General Act shall have appointed their delegates. And pending the constitution of the Commission, the nomination of these delegates shall be notified to the Imperial Government of Germany, which shall see it that the necessary steps are taken to summon the meeting of the Commission. The Commission will at once draw up navigation, river police, pilot, and quarantine rules. Uh, these rules, as well as the terrorists to be framed by the Commission, shall before coming into force be submitted for approval to the powers represented on the Commission. Powers interested will have to communicate their views with as little delay as possible. Any infringement on these rules will be checked by the agents of the International Commission wherever it exercises direct authority, and elsewhere by Bavarian power. In the case of an abused power or an act of injustice on the part of any agent or employee of the International Commission, the individual who considers himself to be aggrieved in this person or rights may apply to the consular agent of his country. Let me some water. The latter will examine his complaint, and if he finds the prima facie reasonable, he will then be entitled to bring it before the commission. At this instance, then, the commission, represented by at least three of its members, shall, in conjunction with him, inquire into the conduct of its agent or employee. Should the consular agent look upon the decision of the commission as raising questions of law, objections to droit, ooh, I'm not trying that. He will report on the subject of his government, which may then have recourse to the powers represented on the commission and invite them to agree to the instructions to be given to the commission. Right? Sounds like you got to do a whole runaround to accuse somebody of doing some illegal stuff. That sounds like a runaround to me, but hey. Article 20. The International Commission of the Congo, charged in terms of Article 17 with the execution of the present act of navigation, shall in particular have power, 1, to decide what works are necessary to assure the navigability of the Congo in accordance with the needs of international trade. On those sections of the river where no power exercises sovereign rights, and the International Commission will. There we go. Can you hear me now? See, just cut off again. I don't understand. Literally talking into the mic. That's all. Sorry. To those sections of the river where no power exercises sovereign rights, the International Commission will itself take the necessary measures for assuring the navigability of the river. So if y'all don't have no powers over there, we gonna take over, which by giving everybody still power. Oh, that sounds like don't worry about it. On those sections of the river held by a sovereign power, the International Commission will concert its action with the Cientidra, Cientrida, with the riparian authorities. 2, to fix the pilot tariff and that the general navigation dues is provided for by paragraphs 2 and 3 of Article 14. The tariffs mentioned in the first paragraph of Article 15 shall be framed by the territorial authorities within the limits prescribed in the said article. The levying of various dues shall be seen by the international or territorial authorities on whose behalf they are established. 3, to administer the revenue arising from the application of the preceding paragraph. 2. 3. To administer the revenue arising from the application of the preceding paragraph. 2. 4. To superintend the quarantine establishment created in virtue of Article 24. 5. To appoint officials of the General Service of Navigation and also its own pay proper employees. It will be for the territorial authorities to appoint sub-inspectors on sections of the river occupied by power. and for the International Commission to do so on other sections. The Bavarian power will notify the International Commission on the appointment of sub-inspectors, and this power will undertake the payment for their salaries. In the exercise of its functions as above defined and limited, the International Commission will be independent of the territorial authorities. We can do anything we want, and y'all can't tell us nothing. That's what that sounds like to me. So there you go. Hopefully I can discuss this with somebody in the comment section at some later date. Obviously, y'all know again I'm still confused at what half that meant. I'm in front, not even about 70%. I didn't get it, but it was an interesting read. I was able to try and deduce a few things from it. I think I understand some things here interesting to know. So when I have knowledge somewhere else, this will click. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of this I just gotta look up some definitions on what some of this means. So that's pretty the biggest thing there. But with that, I'll be out. Hope y'all enjoyed the read. And again, it's in the description. So if y'all don't want to wait for me, go ahead and read yourself. Enjoy. I'm out.